still numerous, and even RK is not immune to them. Most construction workers are young and middle-aged men. The same population likely is to die by suicide. Substance abuse runs high, especially where opioids are prescribed for workplace injuries. Lots of military vets work in construction, and many struggle with past trauma. Superintendent Brown spent 4 years in the Air Force. I met her on RK's work site at Salt Lake City's new airport. She's affable and cherubic. Her hard hat bears the name Mama, a testament to her relationships with coworkers. 3 years ago, she noticed an emotional decline in one of her workers, a fellow vet.
Just nonverbal, and then periods of extreme agitation. And the next day was a no-call, no-show. So at 8 o'clock, when he wasn't at work, I went into full-on alarm.
In the past, if somebody didn't show up, would you have thought about suicide?
Probably not.
Brown reached him by phone. Please, don't hang up, Brown implored as she drove to his house. She found him drunk with a gun in hand. How did you feel when you understood what was happening?
It took me back to a time in my life where if somebody hadn't have reached out to me, then there's a possibility I wouldn't be here. Because I had been where that individual was at, where I had no desire to be on this earth anymore. I didn't think it was worth it. Why bother? And somebody took the time to notice my behavior and reach out to me, and I'll be forever grateful.
Brown soothed her coworker with the words that had helped her. You're loved. You're needed. She called a therapist, then eased him into medical leave.
I wasn't going to lose him, if I could help it.
That must have been so hard.
It was horrible. Horrible.
You're sort of getting teary-eyed.
Yeah.
I know that feeling. I got that feeling.
I guess joy. Happy that I'm here. Happy that he's still here.
Remarkably, over her 31 years in construction, Brown says she's endured 3 co-worker suicides. Each case rocked everyone around them. But at the time, she says, the topic was never up for discussion.
Was not talked about.
It wasn't talked about?
It wasn't talked about. It was 20 years ago. It wasn't talked about.
Fast forward to today, it's the polar opposite. Here, mental health is highlighted 2 to 3 times a week during what RK calls toolbox talks.
Hey, now reach this guy up.
Before every shift, workers gather for stretching and announcements.
Bring it in, guys.
One recent morning, about 60 men in neon safety vests encircle Superintendent Nate Lewis.
How many of you guys here have heard this talk before about mental health and awareness on the site?
Moments earlier, Lewis told me about his own depressive and suicidal episodes 2 years ago. He pushed himself to work 80 hours a week to provide for a growing family. Those pressures turned to panic and anxiety attacks. As a supervisor, he says he feels sharing his story with the crew is especially important. But it isn't easy. His hands and legs visibly quiver.
Sorry, I'm a little nervous. I don't get nervous too much, but...
Lewis tells them he sought therapy and turned a corner. He then opens the floor. From behind him, a normally soft-spoken man walks toward the circle.
So, a lot of you guys probably don't know who I am. My name's Calford.
Cal, as he's known, looks terrified. He apologizes for being nervous, then forges on.
I have a suicidal past myself. I dealt maybe 6 years of, attempting to take my life. The last time that happened was last year in July.
From his bed at the hospital, he says he wondered what kept him coming back to a death wish.
Why does this keep happening? What's my problem? And I ended up figuring out while talking to the therapist that my problem was I'm not being open about myself and, about my feelings and my struggles.
Struggles like being openly gay and at times unwelcome in the construction industry and not wanting to be judged for feeling depressed. But opening up, he says, let some light shine through.
The last year of my life has been one of the happiest years I've ever experienced as an adult.
That's why he's speaking today, he says, so that anyone suffering might also rediscover hope by talking.
That's all I gotta say.
As he regains composure, the young man is met with the bear hugs of his fellow construction workers. Yuki Noguchi, NPR News, Salt Lake City, Utah.
If you are in a crisis or you know someone who is, please call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. They're at 1-800-273-8255. This is NPR News.
You're listening to PRE News and ID.
Well, what do I just heard on the radio? Suicide? This is an epidemic that goes on. When you go through trouble, feel like lonely stuff, that thinking that you're not wanted, everything built up from inside. All the pressure you go through while growing up, something, the thought come to your head, and that thing, no matter what you do, it keep haunting you constant. You're not wanted. You're no good. You got no brains. It's pressure every day that you keep taking and taking. That builds up a lot. It is an epidemic, and people don't know about it because you can't talk to nobody because you feel shame to talk about it, and that force that inside of you, like it blows up like a volcano, and the only real person feeling it is you. Yeah, that's not easy. Live through that. People that certain like here on the radio, they find them a couple of days later. They have no idea what was the cause. Suicide. Because there's find that there's no other option left. Because the pressure is around them. Pressure. And this is going too far. Well, it's gone too far already. And that is something you gotta live with yourself. And that is something, the worst enemy is yourself. That builds up. Because what they tell you around you, people that you grew up with, they keep pushing things in your head. It's like how you put it, a coal in a machine. The more coal you put, the more the steam engine need coal, and that's what they keep filling and filling and filling. And that eventually builds up steam. Too much pressure, either the stuff cracked and all the steam comes out, or otherwise it stays in there and keep building up for years. And you reach a point that there's no way of venting it out because you're isolated. And even though you're working and you go to work, nobody knows. Go to work like normal. But that venting stuff, pressure is within you constant every day and night. And that is something got to be spread out. Like they say on the radio, look at clues, see where you can find some clues that people isolated, eat lunch by themselves, walking by themselves, even though they got a lot of people around them, co-workers around them. You gotta find a way to help each other and look at the clues that you don't know what mind is thinking, even if it's standing next to you. See, when here I'm talking, that you could hear it in my voice because I've been through it. Been through it. somebody out there, everybody out there. You don't know who's who. You don't know the person next to you or what they're going through. Could be laughing, giggling, laughing, joking, and they're still in the state. All laugh and fun. It's like a covering that cover up whatever they're feeling inside. Yep. Because at the end of the day, they go back themselves. Go in a room, isolate in a room, in an apartment. Someone driving the vehicle. Someone just thoughts come to their head, and then all of a sudden you find the vehicle crashed up somewhere in the road, ditch somewhere. And ask yourself, after you find them, they look like normal people. But they're dead. Commit suicide. They might just guess, maybe they fell asleep, which